Chapter 26. Catastrophe. "How was the open house?" Nikki asked. "Lovely," said Crystal. "And did anyone want to buy the house?" "Well, we have an offer," said Crystal. She didn't sound as happy as Nikki thought she would. "From who?" "A couple named Hardesty. Retired, children grown. Looking to start a senior health center. Vitamins, herbal remedies, exercise equipment. A library with books about how to cope with hair loss and stiff joints and swollen ankles and that sort of thing." Crystal looked dispirited. "I don't love the idea," she said. "But they offered a good price, and they're ready to sign as soon as they sell their house in the city. I called your mother about it. She thinks we should accept." So it was over. Goal number 1 lost. No hope at all. Once again, that night, Nikki crept upstairs after Crystal had gone to sleep and spent the night in the nursery with Otis. He curled up close under her chin. His fur smelled of the woods. In the morning, Nikki got up while the sky was still dark. She took Otis out, stood with him in the cold while he did what he needed to do, and took him back upstairs. Then she climbed into the bed in her regular room to wait for the light. As soon as a gray streak showed in the gap between the curtains, Nikki got up and got dressed. She moved quietly. In the chilly kitchen, she made herself some toast and drank a glass of milk. Then she went out to see what was going to happen when Mrs. Beeson's helpers came to get the dogs. She didn't know when or where the dog pickups would start, but as it turned out, it was easy to find them. As soon as she got down the hill, she saw a school bus moving slowly down Main Street. There were no children in it. At Trillium Street, it turned right. A blue van behind it made the same turn. On the van's side, in white letters, was printed, "Church of the Fiery Vision." In the front seat, next to the driver, Nikki saw Mrs. Beeson. Other people were in the van, too. It was full. Nikki followed the bus, walking fast. The bus and the van pulled up at a small brown house. Out of the van climbed Mrs. Beeson and several men, including all 4 of Yonwood's police officers. One of the policemen knocked on the front door of the house. A man came to the door, leading a medium-sized brown and white spaniel. He patted the dog twice and then went quickly back inside and shut the door. The policeman led the dog to the bus and lifted it inside. Everyone got back in the van, and it moved on. This is how it went. Nikki followed and watched it all. Other people trailed after the bus, too. She saw Martin among them, nodding sternly as he watched the dogs being collected. How could she ever have thought she liked him? All around her, people commented on what was happening. Most of them had decided, it seemed, that Mrs. Beeson was doing the right thing. "It's hard, of course," said a stout, middle-aged woman in a green knit hat. "But doing the right thing just is hard sometimes, isn't it? I don't have a dog myself, but if I did, I'd give it up in a heartbeat." A bald man in round glasses nodded. "I know a lot of people who had trouble with this," he said. "But once they make the decision, they were proud of themselves. They felt strong. You know what I mean?" Nikki thought of how giving up hot chocolate had made her feel. Strong, yes, and proud of herself for doing a hard thing. But how could you feel that way about your dog, who was going to be thrown out into the cold? It wasn't just you giving something up. You were making the dogs give up their home, and maybe their lives. The woman in the green hat nodded. "We have to trust in our profit and put aside our own selfish feelings," she said, "for the good of all." But it was hard for Nikki to see the good in what was going on. At each dog-owning household, the bus stopped. The police went to the door, knocked, and then waited while the people inside put the leash on their dog and brought him or her out. Some people put on a brave or saintly face like the first man. They simply patted the dog once or twice on the head, and then went back inside and closed the door, and did not watch the men lead the dog away. At other houses, there were scenes, especially if children lived there. Loud crying came from inside, and some children even broke away from their parents and ran out and grabbed their dog's collar, screaming, "No, no, you can't take him!" And the policeman had the sad duty of uncurling the fingers from the collar, and the parents had to wrestle the child back inside. A very few families refused to open their doors at all. Mrs. Beeson wrote down their addresses. After about an hour, when a second and third bus had been added to the first to hold all the dogs, and a chorus of barking, whining, and howling came from the bus windows, Nikki began to tremble, as if she had a hard-beating heart in every part of her body. Her teeth chattered, but not just from the cold. Suddenly she couldn't stand it anymore. She ran, heading back home to get Otis and hide him where no one could find him, just in case, somehow the dog bus came to Greenhaven. As she ran, she kept saying to herself, it's all right, no one knows he's there. I have plenty of time, he's safe, no one knows about him. Only Amanda and Grover, so he's all right." But still, the sound of barking and shouting followed her as she ran. Crystal would probably be there, but Nikki didn't care anymore if Crystal found out about Otis. She'd have to find out soon anyway. It was time for her to know. And Crystal would help her hide him, wouldn't she? She wouldn't let him be taken away. But when she got to Greenhaven, Crystal's car wasn't there. Where could she have gone? Out to breakfast? It didn't matter. Nikki raced up the path and bounded up the stone steps. She opened the front door and dashed inside and started up the stairs. And stopped short just before reaching the second floor, because there was Amanda, standing at the top of the stairs with Otis in her arms. Nikki stared, but then relief swept through her. "Oh," she said, "you thought of it too." Amanda didn't move. "Thought of what?" she said. Otis licked her neck, and she lifted her chin to get away from his tongue. "To hide Otis," said Nikki, "so they won't find him. Even though nobody knows he's here, it would be better." "They do know he's here," said Amanda. She still didn't move. "Oh no, they do? Then we have to hurry. How did they know? Come on, let's—" "I told Mrs. Beeson," said Amanda in a cool, flat voice. "You what?" Nikki's heart seemed to stop. "I called her up and told her. Course I did. Did you think I'd want to mess up everything? Did you think I'd go against the prophet?" Nikki ran at Amanda and grabbed at Otis with both hands. Amanda pulled him away. "No!" she cried. "She said no dogs! I have to take him!" "You can't take him!" Nikki reached again for Otis, who was now thrashing wildly in Amanda's grip, but Amanda darted to the side and turned her back, clutching Otis close to her chest, and when Nikki came at her again and grabbed her arm, she made a sudden, ferocious twist, sending Nikki staggering across the floor, and turned back toward the stairway. Nikki got her balance and came after her. When Amanda reached the top of the stairs, Nikki was close behind. She could have pushed her. It would have been easy. Amanda would have dropped Otis, who'd have scrambled away, and she would have fallen down the whole length of those hard, polished steps. She might have broken bones. She might have been killed. The urge to push her was so strong that Nikki just barely kept herself from doing it. Instead, she grabbed for Amanda's shirt tail. Amanda jerked away, and Nikki fell back and sat down hard on the top step. Before she could get up, Amanda was halfway down the stairs. Nikki followed, but Amanda was too far ahead. When Nikki reached the bottom step, Amanda was at the front door, throwing it open. When Nikki got to the front door, Amanda was racing down the path toward the sidewalk. And when Nikki made it to the sidewalk, Amanda was running as fast as she could toward the corner of Cloud and Trillium Streets, where the blunt yellow nose of the school bus was just coming into view. That was when the sobs came up in Nikki's throat and the tears flew from her eyes, and she kept running and crying, but only for half a block, because she could see the man coming down from the bus, and Amanda running up to him and holding out Otis, and the man taking Otis into the bus. At that point, Nikki stood still and screamed. Someone came out of a house and scowled at her. She screamed again. The bus moved on, turning a corner. She ran after it, crying so hard she could scarcely breathe, but it turned another corner and disappeared. Two desperate urges arose in her. One was to find Amanda and choke her to death. and the other was to find Crystal and make her drive after the school bus so she could get Otis back. Finding Otis was more important than choking Amanda, but where was Crystal? Nikki stood in the street looking wildly around, rooted to the spot, trying to think what to do. Maybe Crystal had left her a note. She ran back to Greenhaven and dashed from room to room, but no note was there. Maybe Crystal was at the restaurant. With trembling hands, she fumbled through the phone book and found the number, but when she asked if Crystal was there, the person who answered said no. Finally, she ran outside again and stood in the street. Could she run downtown and try to find the school bus somehow and bash her way into it and rescue Otis? She didn't know. She couldn't think. Her breath came in hiccupy sobs, and her heart was running like an engine out of control. She wailed. She couldn't help it. A long, wavery wail. And in that moment, Crystal's car came around the corner. It drove up the street and pulled in at the curb, and instantly Nikki was beside it, pounding on the window, which Crystal rolled down.
"They've taken Otis!"
Nikki cried.
"Amanda, she betrayed me and stole Otis, and he's in the bus with all the other dogs. You have to help, please, please. If we follow the bus, we could get him."
Crystal gaped at her. She had a paper cup of coffee in her hand. A white bakery bag was on the seat beside her.
"What in the world are you talking about?"
she said.
"They're taking the dogs!"
Nikki cried.
"There's no time to explain. Please, please, can you just drive me? And I'll tell you about it while we go."
Nikki's frantic face must have persuaded Crystal. "All right," she said. "Jump in."